Michael sprinted up the stairs and into the watchtower. The second he looked down, his blood went cold. All the gangs, all of them, standing shoulder to shoulder in one long line and staring straight up at him. No shouting, no struggle, just that solid wall of bodies and eyes. Then the alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the prison like lightning trapped inside concrete. Somewhere, the first metal gate slammed open. Michael grabbed the radio again. But it wasn't working. Static. Nothing but static. He turned toward the tower door and heard it. Those slow, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. Someone was coming for him. He backed into the corner as the handle began to turn. First came a small metallic click, then a low creak as the door inched open. Michael's breath came fast and shallow. He had no idea if it was a guard, an inmate, or someone forced to open the door at gunpoint. Before he could find out, the tower lights went out completely. Everything inside went black. No monitors. No overhead light. Not even the glow from the hallway. Just darkness pressing in from all sides, swallowing the room and whoever was in it. For a few seconds, there was nothing. No light. No faces. Only the sound of Michael's own breathing and the distant scream of alarms echoing through the prison walls. He pressed his back against the cold glass of the tower window, feeling the faint vibration of chaos spreading through the building. It felt like the entire prison had fallen into a deep hole. "Who's there?" he called out. His voice sounded small in the blackness. No answer. The door had stopped moving, but he knew someone had started to open it. He could still imagine the handle half-turned. His fingers shook as he reached for the flashlight on his belt. For one horrible second, he thought it was gone. Then his hand closed around it. He clicked it on. A thin white beam cut through the darkness like a knife. The door to the tower stood half open. The hallway outside was a black tunnel. Dust floated in front of the light like tiny ghosts, moving slowly through the air. "Daniels?" Michael called. "Riley? Harper?" Still nothing. He took one slow step toward the doorway, then another. The flashlight shook in his hand, making the beam jump across the walls. He pointed it at the floor, trying to steady his breathing. That's when he saw the boot. A guard's boot lay just outside the door, on its side, as if someone had stepped out of it in a hurry. Michael's heart pounded harder. He moved closer and saw the rest of the guard. Officer Daniels was flat on his back in the hallway, staring up at the ceiling. "Daniels." Michael dropped to one knee beside him. "Hey, can you hear me?" For a second, Daniels didn't move, and Michael feared the worst. Then Daniels blinked slowly. "Mike." His voice was faint. They hit the lights. "Are you hurt?" Michael asked. He ran the flashlight beam over him, checking for blood or twisted limbs. There was no blood. No broken bones. Just a dark red mark on his jaw where someone had hit him hard enough to knock him down. "I'm fine," Daniels muttered. "Just got caught on the stairs. Someone shoved me and ran back down." "Which way?" Michael asked. "Inmates." Daniels nodded slowly. "Yeah, couple of them. From Block C. I didn't see their faces. The lights cut out right away." Michael helped Daniels sit up. The hallway felt wrong. Too quiet, too dark, like the building was holding its breath. "Can you stand?" Michael asked. Daniels pushed himself up on his elbows, then onto his feet. "Yeah," he said, a little shaky. "I can move." As Michael steadied him, both of their radios hissed at the same time. A burst of static spat out, then a voice cut through, broken but clear enough to understand. "This is Control. All units. Full facility power loss. Gangs moving towards security offices. Repeat. Multiple gangs moving together. Do not engage alone. Regroup at." The message cut off mid-sentence. Michael and Daniels looked at each other. "Did he say moving towards security?" Daniels asked. Michael swallowed. "That's us," he said quietly. They stepped back into the tower. The flashlight beam showed silent consoles, dead monitors, and empty chairs. Without power, the tower wasn't a command center. It was just a glass box with a view, and now not even that. "They took the lights first," Daniel said. "They know what they're doing." Michael nodded slowly. They've been planning this longer than we thought. He moved the flashlight to the windows and peered down at the cell block. In the dim red glow of emergency backup lights, he could see shapes moving. Not chaos. Not a wild riot. Lines. Groups moving with purpose. The gangs were splitting into units, some heading toward side gates, some toward stairwells, some toward the central control hallway. It looked less like a prison riot and more like a military operation. Daniels swallowed hard. This isn't random, he said. Someone's commanding them. Michael thought of the symbols on the whiteboard. The matching signs from different gangs. The strange silence. The timed movements. This is more than one gang, he said quietly. This is all of them. Daniels shook his head like he couldn't accept it. Iron Wolves. Stone Kings. Red Line Crew. All of them? Working together? That never happens. Michael kept watching the screens, seeing how they filled doorways and controlled paths. It is now, he said. And that was the worst part. For a moment, neither man spoke. They just watched the moving shadows below. Then Michael made a decision. We can't stay up here. If they take the tower, they control the view. We'll be trapped. We need to get to the warden. Or the backup control room. Something. Daniels nodded. There's a service stairwell on the north side, he said. Less obvious. Most inmates don't even know it exists. Good, Michael answered. We're using that. They began moving quickly but carefully through the dark tower, following the beam of the flashlight. They descended the narrow back steps that smelled like dust and old metal. The only light came from Michael's flashlight and the faint red glow leaking through tiny windows in the stairwell. Each step sounded too loud to Michael's ears. As they reached the lower level, they heard voices echoing from the main corridor. Not shouting. Not laughing. Speaking. Come. You go for the east block. No one passes without our sign. We'll handle the main hall, a low voice said. Another voice asked, What about the guards in Tower 3? The first replied, Already taken care of. Michael felt the hair rise on the back of his neck at those words. Already taken care of. He and Daniels exchanged a quick look. They were talking about them. Back this way, Daniels whispered, pointing to a side door. They slipped into a narrow maintenance room filled with pipes, buckets, and cleaning supplies. The smell of bleach burned in their noses. Footsteps passed just outside, close enough to make the floor tremble slightly. Michael held his breath until the sound faded. In the half-light, Daniels leaned close. There's a secondary camera hub near the laundry, he whispered. It runs on a separate battery system in case the main grid goes down. If we can reach it, we might be able to see what they're doing. Michael nodded. Lead the way. They moved through the back corridors, staying off the main walkways. Every few seconds, they heard something, a distant shout, the crash of a door, the echo of many feet running in patterns that didn't sound random. It felt like the entire prison was shifting under an invisible set of orders. At one point, they passed a small window that looked into Block A. Michael stopped and peered through the glass. Inside, two gangs that normally stayed on opposite sides of the room were standing close together. Their leaders faced each other, speaking quietly. No fists. No shouting. No threats. One of the men slowly lifted his sleeve to show a tattoo, an old gang symbol, with a new mark added beside it. The other leader looked at it, and then nodded once. Michael felt a sick twist in his stomach. They're merging, he whispered. Daniels frowned. What do you mean? They're signs. They're rules, Michael said. They're combining them. That's not just teamwork. That's something bigger. A united structure. Daniel's face went pale. Like a super gang? Michael didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew whatever was happening was worse than anything they'd been trained for. They kept moving until they reached a locked gray door marked UX camera room. Daniels swiped his key card. For a second, Michael was afraid the power loss would stop it from working. The reader flashed green. The magnetic lock clicked open. Inside, the room was cramped and low-ceilinged, filled with a soft hum of machines running on backup batteries. A cluster of monitors glowed faint blue, casting shaky light over their faces. It wasn't as advanced as the main tower, but it was something. Michael sank into the chair and started cycling through cameras. Cell Block C, Block D, Yard 1. Hallways. Everywhere he looked, gangs were moving with chilling order. They controlled choke points. They watched stairwells. They blocked some routes and left others wide open, like they were guiding guards into traps. "This looks like they've studied our emergency maps," Daniel said, eyes wide. "They know where we go when something goes wrong." Michael's stomach tightened. He moved to a camera near the main control office. A chain of inmates was moving down the hall, each wearing some small mark, a colored band, a slash on a sleeve, that matched. One man walked in front. Tall, calm, covered in tattoos that crossed old gang lines. Michael zoomed the camera in as far as it would go. Daniels leaned closer. "Who is that?" he asked. "I don't know," Michael said. "But look at his ink. Iron wolves on the left arm. Stone King crown on the right. Red line crew bars across his neck." Daniel swallowed. "You can't have all three. Those groups hate each other." Michael stared at the screen. "Not anymore," he said quietly. "I think that's the point." The man on the screen stopped right in front of a hallway camera and looked straight into it. For a second, Michael felt like the stranger could see him sitting in that small room surrounded by wires. The man smiled, small and controlled, with the same kind of dangerous calm Michael had seen in other leaders before. Then he raised his hand and tapped the lens with 2 fingers. The image cut out instantly. "That camera was on local power," Daniel said, stunned. "He shouldn't have been able to kill it." Michael's voice was low. "Unless someone inside gave him access codes. Or told him where the control closets are." The idea made him feel cold all over. They switched to a different camera and saw a new hallway, this one near the security wing. 3 guards were pressed against the wall, hands up, surrounded by a half-circle of inmates. The gangs weren't beating them. They were pointing the guards down a specific hallway and making them walk. "They're hurting them," Daniel said. "Hurting them where?" Michael asked. They found the answer when they switched to the laundry cameras. In that frame, a group of maybe 10 guards were kneeling against the far wall. Their hands were on their heads. Around them stood a ring of inmates wearing the same makeshift signs as the others. The tall tattooed leader walked into frame, calm as ever. He lifted his hand and made a simple motion. Every gang member dropped to one knee and bowed their head. Worship, respect, obedience. Michael had never seen anything like it before in Blackstone. "Whoever he is," Daniels whispered, "they follow him." Michael watched, heart hammering. This is what the title means, he thought. The deadliest gangs in prison history aren't just separate groups. There's something new now. Something bigger. He leaned closer as the leader began to speak to the kneeling guards. The camera had no audio, but his body language was calm, almost polite. He pointed to the guards, then to the ceiling, then toward the outer wall, tracing invisible lines in the air. "He's asking them where our systems are," Michael said. "Power, backups, doors." The guard closest to him shook his head. The tall man smiled again. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew time was on his side. Daniels turned away. "We need to do something. Call someone. Hit a panic button. Activate a second lockdown." "We can't use radios," Michael said. "They're jammed. Phones too. But we still have these cameras. That's something. We can see where they are, where they're not." He scanned for any area where inmates weren't present. Finally, he found it, a small hallway near the outer control gate. No movement. No gangs. "There," he said. "If we can get to that outer gate system, we might be able to lock down the perimeter." On one of the monitors, a new screen flickered on. It showed the auxiliary camera room door. The door they were standing behind. "They've tied into this system," Michael whispered. "They can see us now." On the screen, the tall tattooed leader stepped into view. He faced the lens and smiled. Slowly, he lifted his hand. On his palm was a crude circle with 3 marks inside it, one for each major gang. Then he pointed straight at the door. Michael's heart dropped. "He knows exactly where we are," Daniels breathed. The leader signaled, and shadowy shapes moved into view. More inmates, more loyal followers. Their footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, growing louder, closer. The first heavy knock slammed into the metal door. Then another. Then a long, scraping sound, like something sharp being dragged across the surface. Michael and Daniels looked at each other, fear written clearly on both faces. Outside, the leader leaned closer to the hallway camera and mouthed two clear words. There was no sound, but Michael didn't need it. He could read them perfectly. Your turn. The lights in the camera room flickered. The monitors flashed once, then twice. And as the door handle began to turn, very slowly, very calmly, Michael realized the deadliest gangs in prison history weren't just taking over Blackstone. They were coming for whoever still thought they were in control.